I've always believed that a man's word and the dirt under his fingernails are the only things that truly belong to him in this world. But let me tell you, there's a special kind of hell reserved for people who think they can use a laminated map and a cheap suit to rewrite 100 years of history. The notice was there before I even reached the gate, taped bold and official, like a punch in the gut. The HOA claimed the road I'd driven down my entire life wasn't mine anymore. They said it was theirs, and get this, they said I owed retroactive dues. Trucks and inspectors were already there, measuring, taking notes, moving like they owned the place. Like they owned the very air I was breathing. I slammed my hand against the steering wheel, my chest tightening as memories came crashing in, my grandpa laying stones on this path, summer spent running cattle, the fading laughter of family picnics. I muttered to myself, my voice slow and furious. They can't just take what's mine, can they? I'm Jake Calloway, and this ranch has been in my family for 3 generations. My grandfather built it with his bare hands, fencing every acre, laying every stone on that road before I was even a thought in God's mind. My father handed it down to me with one piece of advice. Never let anyone tell you what's yours isn't. I took that to heart. I'm not a man who goes looking for trouble. I wake before sunrise, feed the livestock, and go to bed tired and satisfied. But that morning, the air felt heavy with a different kind of tension. I knew right then nothing was going to stop me from fighting for it. I drove up to the gate the next morning ready for some real answers. The HOA president, Richard Harland, was already there, standing with his arms crossed like he was the king of the hill. Richard was the kind of man who wore a pressed shirt to a ranch and called it field work. Mid-50s, silver hair with that smile. You know the one. The smile of someone who spent decades getting his way through intimidation dressed up as politeness. "Mr. Calloway," he said, extending his hand like we were old friends. I didn't touch it. I just held up that notice and asked, "What is this, Richard? You're telling me this road belongs to the HOA?" He clasped his hands together, all rehearsed and patient. "It's not personal, Jake. According to our records, this access road falls within the HOA's jurisdiction. That means dues apply retroactively, going back 7 years. 7 years. I did the math in my head. That was tens of thousands of dollars. That's insane, I said, keeping my voice steady even though my blood was starting to boil. My grandfather built this road. Richard just tilted his head with that infuriating calm and pulled out a laminated survey map. The road was marked in yellow, a shared easement, he called it. I stared at it. Something was dead wrong. The lines didn't match anything I'd ever seen. The scale was off. The curve of the road didn't even match the actual ground. Where did this map come from? I asked. He barely glanced at it, saying something about margins of error and minor discrepancies. Minor discrepancies? The man was looking me dead in the eye and calling geography a mistake. Then he dropped the hammer. Pay within 30 days, or we restrict access and pursue legal action. You'd block access to my ranch. I asked. He just shrugged. Nothing personal. I stood there looking past him at the road, the one I'd ridden my first horse down at age 6. "I'll tell you what, Richard," I said, "I'm not paying a single dollar. Not now, not ever. And if you send one more person onto my property without permission, we're going to have a very different kind of conversation." That evening, I spread every document I owned across the kitchen table. Deeds, maps, tax filings with my grandpa's careful handwriting. My deed was clear. The road was private. But the HOA's version was a total fiction. I stayed up past midnight cross-referencing, and the more I looked, the more their case fell apart. It wasn't just an error. It felt like someone had literally drawn a line where they wanted it to be. The letters started coming 3 days later. Formal notices, then a letter from a law firm threatening a lien against my ranch. Against land we'd owned for generations. My daughter, who's away at college studying law, called me that night. "Dad," she said, "they can't just claim a road like that. You need documentation, photos, witnesses, everything." So I started. I photographed the old Calloway ranch signs, the private property markers, even the cattle grid. I found receipts for gravel and grading I'd paid for out of my own pocket for 15 years. I call my old neighbor, Earl Hutchkins. That road was always yours, Jake, he said. Your grandpa graded it before the HOA even existed. Margaret O'Shea, who ran the boarding operation nearby, said the same. They both agreed to put it in writing. Then, Richard escalated. I came home one day to find orange cones and a sign on my entrance. Excess subject TO Association approval. I called my attorney, Thomas Greaves, a quiet, methodical man. Send me everything, he said. I think someone made a very bold move, assuming you wouldn't push back. They underestimated you, Jake. Thomas called me back a week later, and his voice was sharper than usual. Jake, I need you in the office. Now, when I got there, he had county records spread out everywhere. The map Richard showed you? It was filed 18 months ago, Thomas said. 18 months? Exactly, Thomas said. And look at the signature on the amendment. It was Richard Harland and the treasurer, Vincent Pute. But here's the kicker. The notary, a woman named Carol Ames, had no record of ever signing it. You're telling me the signature is forged? I asked. Thomas just looked at me. She has no record of it. That's a massive problem for them. It turns out Vincent Pute had been involved in similar boundary disputes with 2 other HOAs. Both times, they'd settled quietly because the owners were too scared to fight. I always felt something was wrong, he told me. But the lawyer bills were piling up. I've regretted paying them ever since. He agreed to stand with me. The night of the community meeting at the Pinecrest Center, the parking lot was packed. Richard opened the meeting with his usual reasonable tone, talking about shared infrastructure and unfair burdens. He even projected that fake map on a big screen. When he finished, I stood up. I didn't yell. I just asked the room, when was this HOA founded? I held up the original map. The room went dead silent. He started stammering about complex legal documents and minor irregularities, but the crowd wasn't having it. Thomas stood up and clarified, a forged notary stamp is a fraudulent filing with the county. That's a crime, not an irregularity. I looked around the room. Earl was there, but he forgot one thing. The truth has a way of moving faster than a polished presentation. By the time the formal hearing rolled around 3 weeks later, the HOA's law firm was scrambling to file motions to dismiss. Richard and Vincent resigned from the board for personal reasons about 48 hours after that. The red signs are gone now. The orange cones are in a dumpster where they belong. I'm back to waking up before the sun, checking my fences and driving down my road, the road my grandfather built. It feels a little different now, though. Every time the tires hit that gravel, I'm reminded that some things are worth the fight. But it makes me wonder, how many other Richards are out there drawing lines on maps, hoping no one has the heart to look at the original deeds? Do you think justice is something that just happens, or do we have to be the ones to go out and grab it by the throat? If you've ever had to stand your ground against someone who thought they could outlawyer the truth, I'd love to hear your story. It's a long road to justice, but it's a lot easier when you aren't walking it alone. Share your thoughts in the comments. Let's talk about what private property really means when the neighbors start acting like kings. Would you like me to dive deeper into the legal documents or help you draft a letter of your own?